Good morning.
It's Wednesday.
Good morning.
And it's time to talk antiques again, isn't it?
It's time to
Every
talk
Wednesday
antiques.
from 10 to 11. And then right after that, I get to watch this young man do swap and shop.
He can get it done, too.
Boy, he can.
Well, we've got it.
He sold everything from eggs to a Cadillac, I'm telling you.
I need a free haircut. You can find one.
Yeah, well, he can get that done.
I'll bet
You just
somebody's
need to
out
put it
there
on swap and
offering them.
shop.
Just tell somebody you want one.
Well,
That's right.
Ronnie, won't you kind of tell the people the categories we're going to talk about today? And we got some really interesting stuff.
Well, we've got a kind of diverse show today. Actually, we're going to talk about 2 or 3 different things, if we have time. We're going to talk about Civil War diaries.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, in particular, one that was found in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to talk about a new Billy the Kid photo that surfaced.
2 new photos.
2, actually.
But one was Billy the Kid, but one had something to do with the
One had a marshal.
Secretary of War,
and,
Ken folks.
and the research that went into finding them. And the point we want to make is the research that it takes, to find something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to actually talk about tintypes. Most people don't know that a tintype doesn't actually have any tin in it.
Well, they call it that.
They're-
You gonna tell us?
Are you
going to tell us?
I'm not going to give it away.
But you are going to tell us.
I am going to tell you.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
We're going to have a little suspense here for a little while.
Okay, and then what about your GPS thing?
If we have a little time, we're going to talk about the first GPS that actually came out in 1909.
That's over 100 years ago.
They had a GPS.
Yeah, 100 years ago. All right.
They sure did. So we're going to start out with a Civil War diary that was actually in Nashville, Tennessee. It had a marble printed cardboard cover, so it made the journal look ordinary, like something you might pick up at a Barnes and Noble today. Mm-hmm. But in the brittle, it was covering these brittle yellow pages, with the script inside, and a penciled inscription on the front page was retired teacher, science teacher, Andre Sharon's only clue to its origins. Now, this was captured at Fort Henry in Stewart County, Middle Tennessee, February the 6th, 1862, by Captain M. Wimple. He was commander of the 4th, 3rd Volunteer Cavalry, and it was presented to Mrs. Sue Wimple. And like a bunch of old stuff from her parents' house in Cincinnati, she shipped it home to San Francisco. And she wasn't sure, what else to do with it. But now, about 2 years later, the contents of the diary are set to be published in Tennessee Historical's Quarterly as part of what historians say is one of the most illuminating Civil War accounts of life in the state. And Sharon's unlikely discovery, it turns out, was the key. The diary itself was stored in an acid-free file holder alongside 8 other diaries that were written by Randall William McGavick, a Confederate officer. He was also a Democratic politician and member of one of the region's most prominent families at the time. Now, most of his papers had been at the Tennessee State Library and Archives since 1960, with one omission, historians said, and missing was the slim book in which McGavick detailed his life from October the 1st, 1860 to 1862. Now, this was the day Confederate soldiers fled Fort Henry and the Union troops closed in. And, it was a common thing that the victors would, pick over the belongings that were left behind. Mm-hmm. And as a member of the region's political class, the Harvard-educated lawyer served as mayor of Nashville, Tennessee from 1858 to 1859. And his writings provide a clear insight into Tennessee's shift from being conciliatory to being secessionist. Now, they went from, this is the people's thinking, how they went from wanting to stay in the Union to how they decided to secede from the Union, which, that's very important, into thinking at the time. Watching the progression of his thinking during the period in that diary, it gives you a window into how other Tennesseans were thinking at the time as well. Okay, and because it includes the critical period surrounding Abraham Lincoln's election as president, the diary is of particular historical interest. In early October 1860, before Lincoln was elected, McGavick wrote that all parties in Tennessee were lovers of the Union and opposed to secession. But by mid-December, his views had changed. He described reading a senator's letter published one day in the Union and American, which was a local newspaper, and he said that it's a certain that 5 of the other cotton states would be out by the 4th of March, and he thinks the other 3 will soon follow. Tennessee and 3 others would soon follow, McGavick wrote. Tennessee, and let's see, I said that. Tennessee and the other slave states will have, he thinks, to go with the South or to form a separate confederacy, thus dividing the Union into 3 parts. Now, this was something that I didn't know, is that some of the states had actually considered, going off on their own. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
Creating their own country.
Creating their own country. That's right. I never knew that. And McGavick continued, I oppose this plan, and I desire to see the South unite and demand of the North a rigid compliance with our compact of confederation, which was, I assume, the equivalent of a Confederate Declaration of Independence, something like that. But the Civil War diaries, they're really important, not just for well, they are important for the views and how people thought at the time, but they're also an important way. If you're like you're out digging, to find
to locate the camps.
The camps, yes, and they tell about camp life. Like in the wintertime, there wasn't a lot of fighting going on, and they built these camps, and they built them out of whatever materials they could find, especially the Confederacy, because they weren't as well equipped as the Union, and they had to just use whatever they could get, and food was short, and the diaries tell about all that.
Yeah, even I've heard some of the diaries tell, when they'd come to a campsite. And they would go through the ash and they would find like squirrel bones and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, they would eat just whatever they could get.
Well, they had to live off the land.
They didn't have much choice.
Yeah.
And, a lot of them, they didn't even have shoes and stuff.
Well, they didn't have those packaged rations like, World War I.
They didn't have the supply trains and they didn't have the materials and, they just weren't as well equipped.
And you got to think about it, too. These soldiers, after battles at nighttime, they would sit around and write about those battles,
right.
With the light, just from the fire. Because in the daytime they were mostly active, except like you said, in the wintertime they didn't fight as much.
Yeah, they would sit around
trying to survive
in
the
cards
wintertime
and just do it, just kill time. A lot of them were drinking.
Yeah.
But now they would try to set up a routine, where they would drill and they would march, but they couldn't keep they couldn't keep them busy all the time. So they would. Yeah, you're right. They would sit around. They would write about this, and they would tell the location of their camps, where they were at.
Yeah. Something that was interesting that I've seen, actually, some of the bullets, they would whittle them and make chess pieces. I never really thought about them playing chess, during the Civil War. Did you, Ray?
Never even dreamed it was anything in those days.
Well, it's kind of boring in the winter, they wouldn't fight a lot of battles,
Yeah.
They had to do something, so.
I can handle checkers, but now that other gets a little above me.
I don't know I think I can't get past tic-tac-toe, that's about as skilled as I am on them games.
Yeah, I used to like playing chess.
I tell you what, let's do. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to go to our buddy eBay and talk about some of their findings on these diaries, the Civil War diaries.
Do you need a part for your car that the dealer just wants too much money for? Well, bring your toolbox and pull the part yourself for huge savings at the CFC Auto Salvage Pick and Pull on Highway 55 between Tullahoma and Manchester. No walking through waist-high weeds here. All of our vehicles are located in our graveled parking lot, up on blocks with room to work. We stock hundreds of cars and trucks, foreign and domestic, new and old, with new vehicles added weekly. You can even search our entire vehicle inventory online. And if your old vehicle gives up the ghost, bring it by. We offer top dollar for your salvage vehicle. Open to the public 7 days a week until dark, so there's plenty of time to come by. That's CFC Auto Salvage Pick and Pull.
John Hirschman. I'm one of the original 6 owners of P&H Rentals. Started the company 30 years ago when we saw a need for individual, construction, industrial, and commercial storage. We have trailers and containers for lease and sell. Our physical location is 2947 Old Manchester Highway, Tullahoma, Tennessee. My phone number is area code 931-273-4252.
We would like to thank Dr. David Florence for supporting Let's Talk Antiques. See Dr. Florence at 804 Kalon Street in Manchester for all of your medical needs. Call 728-5522 for your appointment today. Most insurances accepted.
The Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester has been voted as having the best hamburgers in Manchester. Hometown atmosphere, historical memorabilia, and of course those great burgers, salads, chicken, and so much more. It's the Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester. Call in orders at 728-4452. You can also order at the convenient outdoor curb service. Hamburgers are made the old-fashioned way at the Jiffy Burger, Manchester's finest hamburgers. Open 7:30 until 9, Monday through Saturday.
Madeline's Antiques and Uniques at 6107 Murfreesboro Road in Manchester has been helping collectors find just the right thing since 2008. With 40 quality dealers and a constantly changing inventory of collectibles from the 1800s to the present, they have many unique items in the store and new things coming in daily. Are you looking for the perfect lamp or clock to finish your collection? A vintage lunchbox from your childhood? Well, you can find that plus any number of other unique items in their huge building. With their easy access off I-24, they meet many travelers from around the world and just around the corner that come to buy and sell antiques, or just to stop and have a free cup of coffee and a cookie while browsing around the store. Come visit owner Madeline Kemp and travel back in time at Madeline's Antiques and Uniques. So many memories.
All right, we're back. Listen, we talked about when we come back, we're going to talk about some of these Civil War diaries. Excuse me. Okay, here's some active ones right now. This is asking price.
Right.
Here's the 1864 one of the 118th Ohio Volunteer Infantry. They want $4,200 for it. Now these are not sold. These are just asking price.
That would be a Union soldier's diary, right?
Here's a young doctor's. And they want $3,500 for it. Let's see. Here's another First Ohio light artillery, $3,200. Then we're getting down to a $1,500, $1,200. Okay. Now let's do completed auction. See what actually really sold and how much some of this stuff really brings.
Right.
Here's a 1863 Civil War diary out of Missouri. And it says a rare Western theater content. Okay, that thing brought $993.89.
And it had 8 bids, didn't it?
Yeah, it did have. And and I think its point of view is from the Western Front,
right?
The Civil War. And you got that next one, don't you? The 950 one?
Yeah. That was a U.S. Civil War diary of a soldier. He was a second lieutenant, Roland W. Parker, and it brought $950.
Okay, and here's a Civil War diary, 77, the Illinois Volunteer, 13th Corps, 10th Division, brought $901.
No, it really had a lot of interest on it.
19 bids.
Okay, we have the Civil War diary of a Congressional Medal of Honor winner. That's something different.
Out of New York?
24th New York Cavalry. It had 3 bids and it brought $810.
Okay, now here's a handwritten diary, pre-Civil War manuscript journal, 1859. It brought $750 to buy it now.
Yeah, now, that would be interesting from
Pre-Civil War.
from the point of view of how they were thinking about
Kind of like
secession.
what you was talking about with the mayor of Nashville.
Right.
It's about the same time, too.
That really interests me, is what brought them to the point where they wanted to
Here's a
secede.
pocket diary, Ronnie, of John Brothers, 134th Regiment. Brought $700, a little pocket diary. Here's an interesting one. It's a Union soldiers, and it's the 44th Illinois, 1864 to 1865 is the content. But he has a couple of Confederate bills there that he put in his diary. See them folded up there?
Yeah, I didn't see that.
And that
one.
brought $678.99. And then you getting on down to here's a nice one. Confederate Civil War Diary by a Tennessee soldier.
Now,
This one brought $800.
now I would really like to read that one.
Yeah. Well, since we're in Tennessee, you're kind of right.
Yeah, there's a lot of content online where they have some diaries where you can actually go and read them. If you can read the handwriting, because some of it is so bad.
Hey, here's an interesting one. This is a Civil War diary, 1862, found on the Stones River battlefield.
Yeah,
That's out of Murfreesboro.
that would be a good
And this
one.
guy was an assistant surgeon out of the 9th Indiana. It brought $399.99. It had 2 bids.
Now, those doctors and surgeons, they can tell you a lot about, because a lot of times, they would have to amputate. They didn't have antibiotics back then, like they do now.
Now, here's a kind of interesting one. This is 1867. This is post-Civil War, but it's a young girl's diary out of Jonesville, North Carolina. $450. This is after the Civil War. I'm sure that her diary, the content is about recovering from the Civil War.
Right.
Because, all that area was hit hard.
Yeah. And, a lot of the battles were fought in the South, and they knew from the beginning that most of the war was going to be fought in the South.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one, too, and it brought $500. It's a Civil War diary of this is a famous author that kept this diary, Wiley Britton. And I've never Googled Wiley Britton to see how famous he was, but it says it in the description. Oh, here's an interesting one. This is an escape list of Andersonville diary. Remember, that was one of the really hard prison camps. It's a list of the dead 9th Michigan Cavalry. It brought $149.99. I bet that'd be interesting.
Yeah, would all the soldiers
it's an actual record book that come out of the prison.
that escaped
Yeah. Well,
or were killed trying to escape.
they died in the prison.
Oh, they died in the
Yeah, a
prison.
lot of people died in those during the Civil War in prison.
Conditions were
no
really
food,
were really bad in some of those, and
not sanitary.
right, and the surgeons would be trying to kill them off. In a lot of cases.
Really, they really didn't have no option. I mean, if you had a gun wound, the only thing they could do is most times it's like if it was in your arm, they'd whack your arm off.
That's it. And that's it.
I mean, we try to think about this kind of stuff in today's, health field.
Right.
But you can't do that. You got to think about it in their, especially on the battlefield.
Right. They didn't have MRIs. They didn't have X-rays. They didn't know.
Ronnie, they didn't even
They didn't have
antibiotics.
medicines. No.
They didn't have nothing.
If your
really.
body couldn't fight it off, you were just
You're gone.
Yeah.
Think of the pain that folks went through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We don't know pain compared to what them folks went through.
Yeah, they give them a little whiskey for it.
Yeah.
And the hospitals could be a tent or a house that they just took over. I mean, or a barn, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
What else you got on the Civil War diaries? Anything else?
I have an let me see. I have an 1863 handwritten Civil War diary from Missouri. No, you've already told them about that one.
Do you have anything else about?
I don't have anything else.
As far as the story that was written about it.
I don't have anything else about that.
So is that going to wind us up on Civil War?
That's just about going to wind us up on Civil
We'll just
War
add
Diaries.
that to our to our diary that we wound it up
Yeah.
off of eBay.
All right. Make that notation there,
I'll
Ray,
do that
in our
right
diary.
now.
Okay. How much time do we have?
We got all kind of time. Just keep
Okay.
talking. Well, wait a minute. How long are we for the next break? 5 minutes. We got 5 minutes. So you can get started, and then we'll.
Yeah. All right. We were going to talk about the new Billy the Kid photo that's turned up.
Well, Ronnie, we talked about a couple months ago about where they found one at a flea market for a couple bucks that brought $2.3 million in sale. Now, the ones you're going to talk about is an entirely different find.
This is an entirely different find,
Yeah.
And this guy found two different ones, and one of them was a group photo, and one of them was a guy sitting on a horse, and we're going to talk about that here.
Okay.
Who made these pictures authentic?
Well, we're gonna talk about that.
Okay.
We don't want to give it away. We want to tell the story. Asheville, North
Well, Ray's
Carolina.
wanting to know right now.
Yeah, but we don't.
We're a society that need it now.
We like a little suspense, you know.
All right, rock on.
Okay, here is the most unlikely location, Asheville, North Carolina. It took the right collector at the right time to uncover what could become one of America's most significant historical images. And that's the thing about it. You've always got to have the right person there at the right time.
Well, that's kind of like winning the lottery, ain't it?
Yeah, you've got to have somebody that can recognize something for what
But
it is or
even
what it
this
might
guy didn't
be.
even recognize what he had.
He didn't know what he had.
He got it
for-
because it was cowboys.
Right, Okay, all the seller, about 4 years ago, criminal attorney Frank Abrams bought 5 tintypes at Smiley's Flea Market in eastern North Carolina. Okay, they were images of a group of cowboys and a man on a horseback. Now, all the seller knew about the photos was that they may have come from the roots of Connecticut, which was a prominent New England family, which one of them was a Nobel Peace Prize winner and Secretary of War under President McKinley and Theodore Roosevelt. Okay, Abrams kept the cowboy photos at his office, and he was often looking at them and wondering who these obviously not tin horns were on the tintype. And, it's just like he just put it up in his office, and, and he'd look at it every now and then, and finally curiosity got the better of him, of course. And the group photo occasionally seemingly revolved around a festive occasion. Okay, a couple of men are smoking cigars, particularly desperado-type character is twirling a 6-shooter, and he was joking with his wife. He said maybe it's Jesse James, but he had the correct genre but the wrong outlaw. Okay, in October, National Geographic Channel, they aired a documentary about the odd history of a photo that showed Billy the Kid and the friends playing croquet, which was the one that we were talking about back in November.
Right.
And the photo was uncovered in a Fresco, California storage locker, and then they later sold it at a flea market for $2.
Now, you said Billy the Kid was playing croquet.
Playing croquet.
He really was.
Yeah.
I got the picture to prove it,
He
right?
had to do something to kill time.
That's wild.
Okay, now after an investigation by forensic experts, the croquet photo was later insured for $5 million. This $2 photo that he bought at a flea market. Now, you never know what you're going to find. The only other documented photo of Billy the Kid had sold at an auction in 2011 for $2.3 million, and it was purchased by Bill Koch, who was a billionaire. Okay, Abrams decided to take a closer look at his photo after seeing that. So he zeroed in on one of the cowboys in the rear of the picture, and he was a squinty-eyed fellow with a he had a big Adam's apple. And initially he thought he thought he saw jugged ears, which was one of the kids' distinguishing features. However, it turned out that the man's hand was holding a whiskey bottle upside down to the side of his face, and that's what he thought was the big old ears. Okay. And when he showed the photo to Tim Sweet, proprietor of the family-owned Billy the Kid Museum in Lincoln, New Mexico, Abrams thought he might have something. That's definitely Pat Garrett on the end, Sweet said. And I'm not sure who the others are. Garrett and Billy the Kid, now, they were inseparable. And that's something I didn't know.
To start out with,
that they were in this gang, and run around together. And Abrams says Garrett was tall, and so they called him long, and Billy was much shorter, so they called him short. Now, once Abrams had the long and the short of the story, he turned to the other tintype that he purchased of the man on the horse. Now, there was a clue to the identity of the man in the saddle. May have been found on the reverse side of the tintype. It was scratched into the old metal, the word ash. Now, after running down that little thread, Abrams is confident that the man seated on the horse is Marshall Ashman Ash Upson, who was not only a friend of Garrett's, but also the ghostwriter of Garrett's book, The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid. Okay, since then, Abrams has had experts confirm that the horse rider is Upson. When Upson wasn't drunk, he was a journalist. Abrams said, and when he was drunk, he sometimes was a journalist too. Yeah.
Know him.
Yeah, you know that guy? The man twirling the 6-shooter on the right is thought to be Dirty Dave Rudabaugh, a fellow gang member with Billy the Kid and Garrett. As a skilled murderer, but completely inept at robbing trains. Now, here's a good little story. Rudabaugh died in a little dust-up in Old Mexico in 1880 after he shot and killed 2 men in a card game. Now, after he left the cantina after the shootings, he couldn't find his horse for a getaway. So rather than keep running, he went back to the saloon, and there he was shot several times from the shadows, and then they decapitated him with a machete and put his head on a pole.
Good night.
So they were really mad at him.
Well, could have recruited him, couldn't they?
Yeah. But when, where, and why would these men come together as seen in the 1880 tintype? A little background is necessary. Now, Billy the Kid, he was born Henry McCarthy, but he was also known as William H. Bonney. He was born in 1859 in New York. They don't know a lot about his early life until his name crops up after his first arrest in the late 1875 for stealing food. Now, the first time he was arrested was for just stealing food. Imagine that.
So he's a petty thief then.
Just a petty thief. He was just getting started. Now, 5 months later, he was arrested for stealing clothing and firearms.
He's working his way up there, right?
Yeah, he was moving on up the ladder.
Yeah.
Now he escaped from jail two days after that arrest and left the New Mexico territory, and he traveled into the Arizona territory. That made him both an outlaw and a fugitive. Now, after killing a man in the Arizona territory in 1877, he fled back to New Mexico, where he joined a group of cattle rustlers. By 1880, he had formed a friendship with a rancher named Jim Greathouse, who later introduced him to Rudabaugh. And on January 14th of that year, the 29-year-old Garrett, he married Apollinaria Gutierrez, the 17-year-old sister of his first wife who had died during childbirth. Now, after getting married, Barry Mason got married that same day.
So there was two people married
He's
the same day.
And two people married, Pat Garrett and Barry Mason.
And that's what the photo was about, wasn't it?
That's what he was. He was the central figure in the portrait. Okay, later that year, Garrett decided to go straight, and he was elected sheriff of Lincoln County, New Mexico.
See there, only in the West can you be a crook one day and the sheriff the next.
Well, women will do that to
That's
you.
pretty strange. Maybe they could work that out here someday.
Yeah.
Abrams said in those days you had to have the reputation as the meanest son of a gun in the county. That's the only way the outlaws would have any respect for the law. By 1881...
Hey, hold that thought.
Okay.
Let's take a break.
John Hirschman. I'm one of the original 6 owners of P&H Rentals. Started the company 30 years ago when we saw a need for individual, construction, industrial, and commercial storage. We have trailers and containers for lease and sell. Our physical location is 2947 Old Manchester Highway, Tullahoma, Tennessee. My phone number is area code 931-273-4252.
The Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester has been voted as having the best hamburgers in Manchester. Hometown atmosphere, historical memorabilia, and of course those great burgers, salads, chicken, and so much more. It's the Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester. Call in orders at 728-4452. You can also order at the convenient outdoor curb service. Hamburgers are made the old-fashioned way at the Jiffy Burger, Manchester's finest hamburgers. Open 7:30 until 9, Monday through Saturday.
Madeline's Antiques and Uniques at 6107 Murfreesboro Road in Manchester has been helping collectors find just the right thing since 2008. With 40 quality dealers and a constantly changing inventory of collectibles from the 1800s to the present, they have many unique items in the store and new things coming in daily. Are you looking for the perfect lamp or clock to finish your collection? A vintage lunchbox from your childhood? Well, you can find that plus any number of other unique items in their huge building. With their easy access off I-24, they meet many travelers from around the world and just around the corner that come to buy and sell antiques, or just to stop and have a free cup of coffee and a cookie while browsing around the store. Come visit owner Madeline Kemp and travel back in time at Madeline's Antiques and Uniques. So many memories.
We would like to thank Dr. David Florence for supporting Let's Talk Antiques. See Dr. Florence at 804 Kalon Street in Manchester for all of your medical needs. Call 728-5522 for your appointment today. Most insurances accepted.
Need a part for your car that the dealer just wants too much money for? Well, bring your toolbox and pull the part yourself for huge savings at the CFC Auto Salvage Pick and Pull on Highway 55 between Tullahoma and Manchester. No walking through waist-high weeds here. All of our vehicles are located in our graveled parking lot, up on blocks with room to work. We stock hundreds of cars and trucks, foreign and domestic, new and old, with new vehicles added weekly. You can even search our entire vehicle inventory online. And if your old vehicle gives up the ghost, bring it by. We offer top dollar for your salvage vehicle. Open to the public 7 days a week until dark, so there's plenty of time to come by. That's CFC Auto Salvage Pick and Pull.
All right, we're back. Now, we're still talking Tintypes.
Yes.
And you got a little bit more you want to talk about before we go to the actual auction on Tintypes.
Right, and we were talking about how that group actually got together on that photo. How they come about to be a gang there. And how Pat Garrett, decided to go straight after he got married. And, by 1881, the kid's notoriety had grew, particularly after New Mexico's governor placed a $500 bounty on him. Garrett, whether out of official zealousness or other reasons, was riding down hard on Billy the Kid at the time, because he knew the kid's habits and where to find him.
Oh, yeah, and it's going to make him a hero.
Yeah, right, or he wanted the $500 or whatever. I think he wanted the notoriety, is what I think. Riding into Fort Sumner, New Mexico, Garrett stopped in around midnight to talk to one of the kid's friends, Pete Maxwell. They were both sitting in Maxwell's darkened bedroom when the kid unexpectedly entered the room. Now, the most credible account says that Bonnie entered the room, and he didn't recognize Garrett because of the poor lighting. And drawing his revolver and backing away, Bonnie asked Quinets, which was Spanish for "Who is it?" Recognizing Bonnie's voice, Garrett drew his revolver, firing twice. The first bullet struck Bonnie in the chest, just above his heart, and he fell to the floor, gasped a minute, and died. Now, there's also been speculation that Billy the Kid was shot in the back, and I saw a story.
That's the story.
I saw a story about that on
Well,
television.
Frank James, Jesse James, that's what happened to him. He got shot in the
Maybe
back.
I may
Right.
have it confused.
Yeah.
Now, perhaps today, Garrett would not want the images as found by Abrams, to be widely seen, that he shot somebody in the back. Maybe he didn't want to be known as the guy who would shoot someone that was in his wedding photo. Because that was, they think that was
Might
his
make the
wedding
wife
photo. Abrams credits modern technology and available experts, his interest in collecting old cameras and film, and hours of research as keys to solving the puzzle behind the tintypes on the wall. He said he's been around for 30 years now as an attorney, and after all the hours that he'd spent, looking at surveillance tapes to see if his client was in the photo, that had paid off, And Abrams said, or maybe old Billy was just paying him back for representing all those Billy the Kid wannabes. One or the other. But Abrams said he's not thinking of the money or a possible price tag on the photo. He's going to speculate, but it would be his retirement, he said. He's only made 2 promises. He'll donate to his church, plus he'll do something about the poor coffee served at the county public defender's office. He said he'd like to see a poster there that said "Coffee, courtesy of Billy the Kid and Frank Abrams."
Well, you was talking about those tintypes, and I found something interesting on the internet. Now, that lawyer is out of North Carolina, right?
Right.
Okay, well, I found a tintype, and it looks just like Billy Kid. It's a different one. It's out of North Carolina.
Right, it says a possible photo, don't it?
Now, it says a possible, buy it now for $700. And when you go to that photo and look at it, and then look at this picture of Billy the Kid, Ray, did they look alike?
Yeah, they look
Philip?
close.
They look alike to
Okay,
me.
now here's something funny about this, though. Now, this is why you got to do a lot, like Ronnie said.
Your research.
Okay, I'm sitting here looking at that photo, so I hit the button, see the guy's other, or lady, whoever's selling these items, see their other items. Well, guess what, when you hit that, so I go ahead and I hit this button, and there's that picture again, same picture. Now they want $6,000 starting bid. It's got 1 day and 4 hours left, or buy it now for $25,000. So what happened? Do you think that whoever bought it backed out, or do you think, because it's the same picture,
Yeah, it's the same
or do you
picture.
think this guy, whoever or lady, whoever sold it, paid whoever bought it extra $500 or something not to take it? But anyway, here it is, back up here again, out of North Carolina.
Or she just made her another tintype.
Well, it could be.
And we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because
So are they counterfeiting them?
yeah, they are at that. Yeah, they're
Well-
still making them. As a matter of fact, in 2014 at the Sundance Film Festival, there was a guy there making tintypes of the actors and
Yeah, but
actresses that were there.
this tintype is. I'm gonna say this is. I'm gonna go on record and say this is the same tintype.
Yes,
I'm telling you, that looks like Billy the Kid to me.
it does.
And I guess my point out of all this is two things. You can't always believe that something got sold, or that they had seller's remorse there and wanted to keep it and list it for $25,000. Buy it now. But
Right.
still, out of North Carolina, we have 2 tintypes of Billy the Kid, or possibly this other one here. Now, how can that be?
What kind of coincidence is that?
I mean, what's the odds of that?
Yeah. right.
And you was talking about tintypes, so I went to the completed auction on tintypes, and I'm sure you did too. But
I found a few. Huh?
okay, the highest priced tintype, it's It's called a quarter plate of a Civil War. Mostly your Civil War tintypes are really bringing a lot of money.
Right.
But this one here
they're the ones.
is this is actually looks like a battle. The soldiers are setting after a battle. Mm-hmm. It brought $4,000. And then you have one of an African American Confederate soldier. It brought $2,425 with 27 bids.
Wow, a lot of interest in that one.
And here's another Confederate soldier. And really, on these tintypes of the Confederate soldiers or the Union soldier, whoever it may be, the more weapons they got, that's the rule of thumb. The more the picture will bring.
Yeah.
Well, here's one. The guy's got his gun. It brought $1,750. Then here's another one of just a picture of a group of soldiers, Civil War, brought $1,499. Now let's get away from the Civil War, and here is a tintype of a really pretty blonde-headed girl, and it says that let's see, evidently she was sitting here posing. She's not smiling. She's just looking toward the camera. Mm-hmm. It brought $1,250.
Wow.
And it's just a picture of a girl. Now here's another of a child. This is a child picture. This is a young blonde-headed, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl. It brought $1,250. Now it seems like a lot of the. Here's another one. That's another little girl. Probably looks like she's about a teenager. Mm-hmm. It brought $900. I guess, pictures of women and soldiers evidently bring a lot of money, because that's what. Now here's the odd thing though. Here is a tintype photograph of eggs in a bird nest. Just eggs in a bird nest. Okay.
Sounds like you would find in a portrait or something.
$889 and 22 bids.
Why somebody wanted that one?
It's a picture of a bird's nest with eggs in it. Yeah, and then I was going to see. Oh, now this would be right up Max Northcutt's alley. Here is a tintype of a surveyor with his surveying equipment. Do you think that looks like Max?
That might be Max's great grandpa there.
Yeah, could be. Anyway, that brought $785 with 9 bids. So I guess it's all about the subject matter.
Right.
I mean, there ain't no guessing to it. It is about subject matter.
Yes, because the military stuff, brings the money.
Oh.
And notice that had 9 bids with all that money. The bird's nest had 22 bids.
Yeah.
Around the same price, but you got up a whole lot
You
higher.
want to hear something that's going to beat that, Keith?
Yes.
Okay. Here's a tintype of a butterfly.
Really?
Now, a butterfly.
Okay.
It had 37 bids and brought $630.
And there's still a lot of those tintypes out there.
Uh-oh. Now, this is for all the cat people, okay? This is a tintype. This is a picture of a cat sitting in a chair at a studio. Of course, that's where they took the cat to get its picture took. Now, you talking about bids? 54 bids brought $535. A picture of a cat sitting in a chair.
Wow.
I mean, I'm in the wrong business.
Well, to find these tintypes though. Now here's an odd tintype. Now I don't know how this worked out, but it's called a ghost. It says it's a Civil War time of a gentleman sitting with a ghost watching over him. And if you look at the picture, does that not look like a ghost?
It sure does.
And this picture come over and look at this. It brought $515 with 20 bids. Look at that. Does that look like a person or a ghost or something?
Looks more like a ghost to me.
Yeah. It's like you can see through it, don't you? And I was going to see of course, here's another lady, brought $650. Uh-oh. Now, we've done the cat thing. Let's do the dog side.
All right.
Here's a picture of a dog. Now, they didn't give it a chance to sell. They had to buy it now. This brought $450. Evidently, had they stuck that on, it would have probably brought 50 or 60 bids. Now, here's another one. Here's another dog. He's just laying down on the couch, and they took a picture of him. And it brought 21 bids now, $449.44. So we've covered everything from the Civil War to the ladies to the ghost and dog, cat, eggs. I guess we pretty well got it.
There was.
Let's take a break from that and
All right.
see what else we can come up with.
Madeline's Antiques and Uniques at 6107 Murfreesboro Road in Manchester has been helping collectors find just the right thing since 2008. With 40 quality dealers and a constantly changing inventory of collectibles from the 1800s to the present, they have many unique items in the store and new things coming in daily. Are you looking for the perfect lamp or clock to finish your collection? A vintage lunchbox from your childhood? Well, you can find that plus any number of other unique items in their huge building. With their easy access off I-24, they meet many travelers from around the world and just around the corner that come to buy and sell antiques, or just to stop and have a free cup of coffee and a cookie while browsing around the store. Come visit owner Madeline Kemp and travel back in time at Madeline's Antiques and Uniques. So many memories.
The Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester has been voted as having the best hamburgers in Manchester. Hometown atmosphere, historical memorabilia, and of course those great burgers, salads, chicken, and so much more. It's the Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester. Call in orders at 728-4452. You can also order at the convenient outdoor curb service. Hamburgers are made the old-fashioned way at the Jiffy Burger, Manchester's finest hamburgers. Open 7:30 until 9, Monday through Saturday.
Need a part for your car that the dealer just wants too much money for? Well, bring your toolbox and pull the part yourself for huge savings at the CFC Auto Salvage Pick and Pull on Highway 55 between Tullahoma and Manchester. No walking through waist-high weeds here. All of our vehicles are located in our graveled parking lot, up on blocks with room to work. We stock hundreds of cars and trucks, foreign and domestic, new and old, with new vehicles added weekly. You can even search our entire vehicle inventory online. And if your old vehicle gives up the ghost, bring it by. We offer top dollar for your salvage vehicle. Open to the public 7 days a week until dark, so there's plenty of time to come by. That's CFC Auto Salvage Pick and Pull.
My name's John Hirschman. I'm one of the original 6 owners of P&H Rentals. Started the company 30 years ago when we saw a need for individual, construction, industrial, and commercial storage. We have trailers and containers for lease and sell. Our physical location is 2947 Old Manchester Highway, Tullahoma, Tennessee. My phone number is area code 931-273-4252.
We would like to thank Dr. David Florence for supporting Let's Talk Antiques. See Dr. Florence at 804 Kalon Street in Manchester for all of your medical needs. Call 728-5522 for your appointment today. Most insurances accepted.
All right, we're back, and we've been talking about Tintypes. And Philip, you found something interesting about Billy the Kid.
I was eBaying Billy the Kid and came up with the first biography ever written about him that was published in 1882. He died in 1881, and it's called An Authentic Life of Billy the Kid. And it was supposedly written by Pat Garrett, but it says it was actually ghost written.
Right, that was the one we were talking about that was written by the guy that was stayed mostly drunk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, and
Yeah.
it says it was signed by Jim Howard of Denver, Colorado, 1908 ownership inscription, and it sold on eBay for $4,000. And it looks like it's only 6 pages. I don't know whether that was the original was only 6 pages long, or this only has 6 pages.
It only has 6 pages left.
Yeah, but it was
Wow.
$4,000. They've said they've only ever seen 2 copies of it. So.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Well, you know, it had to have more pages than that then. You know it did.
Probably some of them gone after all those years.
Souvenirs, that's what's happened. Hey, the interesting thing about Billy the Kid, I just... the question was, when did he die?
Yeah.
So he died July the 14th. They buried him July the 15th.
Next day.
You would have thought, you know how they do
Everybody
outlaws.
want to see him, yeah.
Well, yeah, they put you up there, prop you up for about 2 or 3 days.
Let people walk around and look at him.
Yeah. But they buried him the next day.
And they wanted to get rid of him.
He's buried at the Fort Summer Cemetery.
Wonder if somebody hadn't dug him up by now.
How do you know they didn't?
Or how do you know it's
Day
him?
after, he was still warm.
Yeah, he was still warm.
I didn't wait long at all.
Yeah.
And that's kind of odd, though, because, you read the history on a lot of these outlaws.
Yeah.
And, they kept them, displayed them forever.
Yeah. I don't know how they kept the smell down, but they supposedly did.
Well, he didn't have time to decompose much.
You remember we talked about Lincoln, and they used flowers and perfume, to keep the smell down.
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't have a lot of time left.
Probably about 2 minutes.
Since we were talking about tintypes, I'm just going to give you a little bit right here, and we'll talk about this some more later, maybe. Okay, the tintypes, they were patented by Hamilton L. Smith of Gambler, Ohio, in 1856, and they quickly became a popular photographic format. Now, early tintypes were often presented in cases to resemble the more fragile daguerreotypes and the ambrotypes. Okay, those types of pictures, they needed protection. They had cases. Now, the tintypes were a little more durable.
And also, you said the tintype. My question to you earlier was, well, here's this dog in this dog picture. Mm-hmm. How did they get that dog to sit there that long? Because the other earlier type, they had to sit there for a long time.
Yeah, the tintypes didn't take that long to make it. Actually, people went around in wagons. Photographers would go around in wagons from town to town and take pictures, or at fairs.
Well, if you've seen that movie, A Million Ways to Die in the West, the Old West or the West, it's a comedy that's just come out. It's a couple years old now, Philip. Yeah, about 3 years. And it shows them taking pictures and the thing blows up and burns the one guy up and stuff. The flash.
Yeah.
But anyway, with that, Ronald, we got to get out of here.
All right.